Hey, I just got a notification to join us live.
That's a good sign.
It's working right. Giggity.
Hello, and welcome to the For We Are Many podcast. My name is Rob, and with us we have my co-host Trisha, also known as the Zen Motherfucker.
Hola. I am present. I will have my camera on momentarily. How you doing tonight?
Shit, my bad. I am doing pretty good. I'm trying to do too many things at once. Story of my life.
It happens. Right? Struggle of the juggle, bro.
Petra said, let the madness begin. And Austin said, oh shit, I'm on time. And that's what I said right before I hit go live at 8:02.
Right? Like we are steadily getting closer and closer to actually starting on time. It's progress.
Yeah. Oh man. So we have really just a small handful of topics, I think, to talk about tonight. We're going to be revisiting police brutality pretty much regularly, I would say. Last year was record setting, and this year is not shaping up to be literally any better. Yeah, we're definitely going to be continually covering that. Global geopolitics. So, I guess when I say that, really, I'm just kind of talking about more like broad international updates. And then Talia will be joining us shortly, and we're going to do a catch up on Russia and Ukraine. Yeah. Am I missing anything?
Not that I can think of on the international stuff. Like to talk for a brief moment about the NSC arrests and at least let people know that happened. Yeah. Don't know how much faith we can really have in the justice system having justice there, but they at least got arrested. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything else prominent as far as U.S. oriented specifically. Other than the world is on fire and what the fuck. We're still surviving.
Austin said, good to see you that you're doing better.
Oh, did you let everybody know last week that I was out because of my teeth?
I don't remember exactly what I said, to be honest, but probably.
Right on. Well, thank you, Austin. I'm actually feeling more like I got punched this week instead of feeling like I got my face slammed into the sidewalk last week. So it's an improvement. Able to talk again comfortably, somewhat. So I'm glad to be back. Sorry for my absence last week, but I was not functional.
Yeah, it happens. So police brutality. This is the least prepared that I have been for one of these shows in weeks.
We're both here.
Yeah. So I guess just to start off with the police brutality segment, while I'm trying to multitask, which is not working, so I'm just going to stop that for a minute and talk. But so basically, just to kick off the police brutality segment, I mean, we have been talking the last couple of weeks about how increased police funding and access to military weaponry obviously leads to more police violence. And there's never a week that goes by, whether the media covers it or not, there's never a week that goes by that the police don't kill someone. In fact, most of the time a day doesn't go by where the police don't kill someone. And since they're not all, publicized or talked about in the media, and we're not like a massive national organization or anything, we don't always know when these things happen. So if you guys know about some police brutality cases or police murders that we don't talk about, by all means, hit us up, message the page, post something in the For We Are Many education and discussion group. Let us know, because I mean, seriously, I wouldn't even know about the 3 killings in the first week of January in LA. If it wasn't for people online, it's not like that's going to come up in the news on the East Coast, Not that I really watch the news either, but that's not the point.
But we do get more accurate details from people who are actually on the ground seeing the shit happen. So, if there's something that pops off, by all means, please let us know.
Yeah.
If you got footage, let us know. We'll give you our email address. Because also often mainstream media just ignores the shit, brush it under the rug, we're going to pretend that it's not happening. We don't do that.
Yeah. Oh man. But Keenan Anderson, who is the cousin of Black Lives Matter co-founder, he died from cardiac arrest is basically the only new information, because obviously we talked about this last week. I didn't show the footage last week, and I mean, honestly, I'm not sure that I want to, because I don't want to have to watch it again or impose that on you guys. But I do want to go through some of the CNN basically captioned it with the conversation. And like, that's better. It still gives you an idea of what's going on, but it doesn't show you. Anyway, they commanded him to lay down. He does not appear to comply immediately, which, I mean, from what I read previously, he was like running down the street, like saying, "Hey, I need help," because it was a car accident. Yeah. 2 other officers arrive and move him to lie prone on his stomach in the street, telling him to relax. As officers struggle on top of him, telling him to relax while they're, on him. Anderson can be heard screaming, "Help, they're trying to kill me, and please don't do this." In footage from another responding officer, an officer can be heard repeatedly warning Anderson to stop resisting and turn over, and threatening several times to tase him. And he said, "They're trying to George Floyd me." Then an officer deploys a taser multiple times on Anderson, who says, "I'm not resisting." Officers eventually handcuff and place ankle hobbles on Anderson. And later in the video, the Los Angeles Fire Department places Anderson, who appears to be conscious, onto a gurney near an ambulance. Police say in the news release that Anderson was given medical care at the scene by fire department personnel before being transported to a local hospital. While at the hospital, Anderson went into cardiac arrest and was pronounced deceased. What is the average, taser? How much voltage are we talking here? And how would that be amplified by potential underlying issues, or what does that do to a healthy heart, let alone one that maybe isn't?
Hell, what does it do when you're already under extreme stress because there was just a car accident you're trying to get help for, and now you're being assaulted by police?
Right.
Your fight or flight response kicks in, your adrenaline shoots up, your heart's pumping 1,000,000 miles an hour.
And then you get tased. What I don't like is that CNN obviously had somebody watch through the video and write it down. But I mean, it says an officer deploys a taser multiple times. I mean, last week, at least social media posts, so I can't verify it. At least they threw out a number though, about 8 times, I think it was. But this just says multiple times. That could mean twice. That could mean 1,000 times. I mean,
right. It's vague. Whereas I was seeing the same things of, people saying that he was tased 7 or 8 times. That's fucking excessive.
Mm-hmm.
That would strengthen a healthy heart.
But yeah,
it's another case of.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying it's another case of murder by cop. Just a slow death because they tased him to death.
Well, I mean, George Floyd didn't exactly die slow either. Or didn't exactly die quick, I mean.
I knew what you meant. Yeah, it doesn't matter if, 10, 15, 20 minutes passed between getting tased the last time and actually dying in the hospital. He wouldn't have fucking died if they hadn't electrocuted the shit out of him.
Right.
How is that the response to someone screaming for help for a car wreck? What the fuck? Honestly, part of it might have been them just not liking being called out by him saying, they're trying to kill me. Oh shit, we better shut him up and kill him quick then. What the fuck, pigs?
Yeah.
And just given the egomania that is common amongst pigs, that kind of makes me fucking wonder if that just motivated them to keep, shocking him with the taser. What the fuck? that should be a first-degree murder charge on all of them.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the exact number of what Biden's 2023 budget has for police funding.
Too much.
Well, obviously.
It's sickening that here people have been calling for a couple of years for demilitarization of the police and to cut back on the funding that they have available to be so fucking militarized. And this fascist fuck is like, here, let's give them billions more. If I remember right, I believe it was in the billions.
Yes, yeah. I mean, this isn't even like the all of police funding. $32.2 billion to put more police officers on the beat through state and local grants and community violence intervention programs. So they're going to use community violence intervention as an excuse for more police funding. Like, you have to be shitting me.
It's coming from them. They are the source of it. How is putting more of them on the street in intervention?
You want to know what the proposed budget for 2023 was, though? Like, total? $5.8 trillion for fiscal year 2023. Like, I mean, just to like, do you understand how many of something is a billion? I mean, I know you do. It's a general you.
But to expand on that to the trillion, this going back to like the conversation we were having earlier of most crime is driven by what? Fucking poverty. You know how much crime we could actually solve by spending that money wisely to make sure that people have adequate housing and access to food, clothing, healthcare, education, resources that are necessary for a proper fucking survival and a dignified fucking life. And instead we're pumping it into putting more pigs on the fucking street to kill us?
Yeah, and that's specifically like community grants to put more police on the beat. But I have seen this video in the past, and I kind of just want to share it because it does a pretty decent job at trying to, like, you know, help you conceptualize $1 trillion. I don't remember if the rhetoric is, like politicized or not, but the imagery is what we're going with here. Now multiply that by basically 6. Are you muted?
Shouldn't be.
Oh, I hear you now.
No. Yeah. Extrapolate on that and think how many people that could house and feed, provide health care and education for.
Yeah. And I mean, I know some people would argue that, well, they do, because food stamps are probably, what, 2 pallets out of that?
This is what I had to say to that, because the amount of food stamps each individual gets is only enough to carry you through maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks of the month, not even the whole fucking month. That does not make a significant difference in your fucking quality of life.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, divide up $5.8 trillion, but hold on, I'm going to pull out a calculator. I'm going to be petty. Why am I doing this on my desktop instead of grabbing my cell phone? Don't ask me. So what was it? 5.8. I don't know why I put a decimal point in there. That's a lot of zeros. Oh my God. How about I just type trillion? $5.8 trillion divided by 330 million people. Why can't you just give me the answer? It's showing me articles and shit.
Oh.
Well, anyway, okay, so that would be just over $6,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. That's $2 trillion. Sorry, $2 trillion was $6,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. And just for the record, $2 trillion, where that number came from, $2 trillion was the first COVID stimulus. And they have a very good point here. Like how many billions, well, actually, that's not even counting quantitative easing. How many trillions were printed into the stock market? Like, anyway, I'm getting off base here. This is about police funding. So out of that $5.8 trillion, I think we can safely assume that damn near $1 trillion is probably going to be for the police. And I hate that I can't find that number because I've been looking for months.
Anyway, the 5.8 trillion divided by the 330 million population is $17,575 and some change per individual. Think about what a huge difference that would actually make in somebody's fucking quality of life.
I think we absolutely.
How that would apply if we actually narrowed that number down as far as the population, because there's a lot of people who wouldn't even fucking need that because they're wealthy. Like, if we divided that up by all of the people who are living in poverty alone, or even living on less than $100,000 a year who could really fucking use it. You know, I don't even have those numbers as far as the population goes, but think of what a massive difference that would make to actually apply equity there of lifting people up to the level that those who are financially successful are already at. What a huge difference that would make. We're talking money to be able to buy a fucking house with.
I'm gonna circle back to a comment from Corbin from 7 minutes ago, and I'd like you to send the source for this if you could be so kind. A 2012 study published in the American Heart Association's journal Circulation found that tasers can cause ventricular arrhythmias, sudden cardiac arrest, and even death. At least 49 people died in 2018 in the U.S. after being shocked by police with a taser. And how much would it cost to end world hunger? I mean, shit, I don't know, but I mean, do you realize how much like a community could do with one of those pallets? To go back to the video, one of those pallets stacked up to about your waist is $100 million. Like, imagine what that could do for your neighborhood, or your street, or your part of the city, or whatever. If you live in an impoverished area, then you know how far $100 million could go. But no, instead we're giving it all to the military and police. Corbin said, we already produce enough food to feed everyone. It's a matter of taking power away from capitalists. Amen to that.
Facts. We waste more food in this country, especially, than should ever be fucking allowed. And a lot of that is because these companies will get a tax write-off for throwing the food away, but they don't get a tax write-off, and oftentimes aren't allowed to take food that's close to expiration and give it away.
Right. Natalie said, I could almost afford to buy the food I need trying to fight this cancer with that amount. Almost. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think I have to stress to anybody why we need to do something about food, right? Like why we need gardens in every neighborhood. For example, okay, Corbin said it was from Wiki. Here is the source. Circulation is a scientific journal published by Lippincott, Williams, and Wilkins for the American Heart Association. The journal publishes articles related to research in and practice of cardiovascular diseases, including observational studies, clinical trials, epidemiology, health services and outcome studies, and advances in applied, translational, and basic research. I meant like to the article, but it's okay. I can look it up later. I'm copying that first set. Oh, he sent a link to the journal. Okay, that works. Thank you. But yeah, and for that matter, like I don't suddenly think that there's going to be or have been no police killings in the last week, but I haven't heard about any or read any, at least not new ones. But the point is the George Floyd uprisings were the biggest protests in, at least in well documented history. I mean, right, like maybe 1968, 1969 could have came close in certain areas, but the George Floyd uprisings were everywhere.
Right.
Literally everywhere. And I feel like a lot of the things that always happens to the left, between being beat by police, which now we're giving them more money and bigger guns, or the the Democratic Party being all like, oh, vote for us and we'll end racism.
Yeah, by doing some fucking pandering bullshit with throwing on kente cloth and taking a knee and pretending to give a fuck about police brutality while they turn around and fund them more. Yeah, that worked great.
Yeah, exactly. Natalie said none in Chicago. That's amazing if none for the week. Honestly, I don't know. But I mean, I know that there have been protests in Indianapolis recently about I should say. What is the name of the guy? Herman Whitfield, I think. But I mean, that being said, like that's one place, like where's everybody else? And I mean, that goes to me too, but like, and I mean, I feel like a lot of the Black Lives Matter affiliated people either like went back to brunch or, like got burnt out. Or I mean, there's a multitude of things that could have happened, but we need to bring these people back. The issue never went away.
Only gotten worse. They've become more volatile and more reactionary because of them getting salty that people actually stood up like, yeah, no, this is fucking unacceptable that people are being murdered en masse by our fucking employees. They took that personally. Like, oh, you don't? Okay, we'll kill more people. What?
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny that how do I say? I totally lost it. I'm sorry. I was trying to read at the same time at first, and it threw me off. But I guess in other like global geopolitical stuff, France, is the French are being the French. And I mean that in a good way. Just a second.
Are they rolling out guillotines again?
Well, I mean, not quite, but so this, oh shit. This is over raising the retirement age by 2 years, inflation, and Ukraine. But as you see, there's a lot of people there. And then, the debt crisis, obviously. I don't know, but the person who posted it was tying it to oh shit. The person who posted it was tying it to our debt crisis, because like the only time that there's ever an issue with the debt ceiling is when there's a Republican House and a Democratic president.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're talking about funding the government month by month as opposed to the omnibus package, which I mean actually sounds like a really good way to save money. My issue with it, and I guess the biggest reason that I wouldn't support that, especially out of a conservative politician, is where are those cuts going to come from? They're going to come from areas that are already strained. The Postal Service, cash assistance, food assistance, charity shit, grants, all that shit will be gone. and taxes are going to lower, and then the debt crisis gets worse because, yeah, the rich aren't paying any fucking taxes. I don't know how much more they can cut, rich taxes in this country, though.
Well, the fact of the matter is, middle class pays a higher fucking rate than any of the wealthy. It's fucked. Like, income taxes were never even meant to be levied against the workers. They were supposed to be levied against the corporations themselves. And now these motherfuckers want to act like they're doing people a favor by being like, well, we'll pay half and you're paying the other half out of your paycheck. Like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
And instead, we are subsidizing corporations, giving them grants, giving them fucking tax refunds, all kinds of fucking subsidies. It's like, why are we subsidizing the wealthy while telling the poor to pull themselves up by the bootstraps when they might not even have boots?
Yeah. Austin said, we were talking the other day about the 3 martini lunches they get covered by the taxpayers, and then they go back and pass laws while they're drunk. But, I mean, ultimately they'd be living that lifestyle even if they didn't get a government salary, because they're in the pockets of, capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie said there was still some good activists that stay active in Minnesota. I'll give you that. But Minnesota has had a lot going on for a long time. The Line 3 fight there, and George Floyd, the uprisings in Minnesota were pretty brutal. Corbin pointed out the expression "pull yourself up by your bootstraps" was originally used to refer to a task that's impossible. It's believed to come from the German author Rudolf Erich Rasp, who wrote about a character who pulled himself out of a swamp by pulling his own hair.
Yeah, that would never work in reality.
Right?
That's the thing. Like, think about it. If you bend over and pull on your fucking bootlaces, is that going to lift you? No.
Yeah. So the advice that the French media gave, I don't know if it's state run or private because France has both, but they give advice about the protests that happened on January 7th, which is funny because the media didn't cover what happened January 7th, at least that I have found yet. But it says, avoid all protests as a routine security precaution. Follow local travel and security advice. Allow extra time for traveling in the impacted areas. In the event of violence, leave the area immediately.
Just trying to deter people away from even joining the protest, or what?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, if you avoid them, then how can you be exposed to what they're talking about?
Right. Gotta love how it's coming with like the subtle threat of violence too. Basically victim blaming of if you go there and some violence breaks out, it's your fault for being there. If you get hurt, no, that would be the pig's fault for being reactionary and, coming at protesters with violence.
Al Jazeera actually covered it. I found it. I put the date on it and then it showed up. So the French media, like I said, I don't know if it's state run or private, but it didn't mention anything about why these protests were happening. Al Jazeera did answer that question. Thousands march in Paris to protest unresolved killings of Kurds. 3 Kurdish activists apparently were killed in Paris, France, 10 years ago. Let's watch the video of the coverage.
Sounds good.
Chants and tears accompany the coffins of the 3 Kurdish refugees killed in Paris on December the 23rd. Their funeral seems to have united the Kurdish community across Europe. Thousands gathered in a Parisian suburb to pay their respect. Many have come from other regions of France and neighboring countries. The community is disappointed and afraid after the Kurds were shot dead in the 10th district of the city, which is home to a large Kurdish community. Relatives of the dead and activists say they're insulted as Kurds and as French citizens because they feel the state has failed in its obligations.
We want justice and truth. We are used to conspiracies in Turkey, but in France, we would like to know what's behind this. Who did the killer meet when he was in prison? Who is really this person being called a madman? We want answers.
They are from Syria, Iran, Iraq and Turkey. They are also angry at the governments in their home countries. The gathering provided an opportunity to express their political views as well.
We thought Kurds fleeing repression would be safe in Europe, but when we are targeted in the heart of Paris, that raises questions on how we see European countries.
Their anger is also directed at French authorities for not declaring it a terrorist attack, and some politicians agree.
The French state must be more transparent. The fact that the crime is qualified as a terror attack shouldn't be related to the color of the skin of the perpetrators. Every racist attack is a political act and a terror attack.
The 69-year-old white male accused of the murders is awaiting a formal investigation and trial. The bodies will now be taken to the Kurdish region of northern Iraq and Turkey for burial.
January marks 10 years since the killing of 3 activists in Paris, and these latest 3 killings have reopened old wounds. They've been demanding an investigation for the last decade, but are afraid that once again, their dead will not get justice. Samba Mijaved, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Wow. So they had already scheduled a protest about the killings from 10 years ago. And in the meantime, the police kill 3 more people. And that's in France. It's not like it's as easy in France. Hello, Talia. Welcome.
Hello, I finally made it. Zen, how's it going? I see you're feeling better.
Getting there. Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Also, why is it just me or am I like super bright right now? Look at my camera.
I mean, I don't have my ring light on. Is that it?
No,
it's sitting in the dark. Okay.
It's on.
I've got my LEDs set to an amber light instead of white, so.
Yeah, I should probably just like switch back over to the I should probably just switch back over to my LED. Anyways, so sorry for derailing what you were saying. I'm good at that.
Oh, I mean, I was just pointing out that white supremacy is still alive and well in, French police forces as well as our own.
Imagine my shock. It's always the French. Well, and the Americans. And every police force.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, at least like the French were already going to protest. Apparently, it's some of the same organizers as the Yellow Vest movement was. But they were already going to protest killings, the killing of 3 Kurdish activists from 10 years ago. And then 3 more Kurds got killed by French police, like in the lead up to the protest.
Yeah, I am very not up to date on that, but yeah.
Oh, I just found out about it.
Okay, cool. Now I don't feel bad because I'm like, shit, it's like, did I fucking miss something?
No, I mean, and this was January 7th, the protest was.
Gotcha.
Anyway. So I mean, I missed it till literally today. But we also talked about, US police forces and more money equals more violence. And Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, y'all probably can't see this because I got the background thing on, but my dogs are assaulting my face with kisses.
Oh, I like how we can just see like a dog nose. It's like the cutest thing ever.
Say like this because there's multiple dog tongues flying at me. Like, come on now.
I mean, perfect timing for that to happen, though. Absolutely perfect timing.
So, I know that Trisha wanted to say something on something. Oh yeah, the NSC fucking dick bags. That's what it was.
Yeah, Chris Hood and Leo Cullinan got arrested, and it's going into civil court. The violation was of the Civil Rights Act. This is for last summer. I forget now if it was June or July. They had gone out and, did their typical racist white trash shit, hanging their banners everywhere. They hung one off of a bridge saying to keep New England white. And so now they're getting hit with violating the Civil Rights Act with that one because, that's clearly racist rhetoric. And it's really fucking disappointing to see how many people in the area are like, oh, but freedom of speech, because New Hampshire. And it's like, that's not supposed to cover speech that qualifies as calling people to act in violence against others in a hate crime. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out in court. It just befuddles me that like people are more concerned about that. I mean, yeah, it is a slippery slope when dealing with free speech, but it's not so slippery when they're literally calling for eradicating anybody with pigments out of the area.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, I don't know if funny is the right word, but I guess ironic. I'm looking at a CBS News article right now and has a picture of Christopher Hood, one of the members of the group, I guess.
He's like he's the leader.
Okay, he's the leader of it. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. But like literally like to have a picture of him and he like just looks like a stereotypical fucking, like Richard, like great value knockoff version of Richard Spencer.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
Richard Spencer was probably his hero or something. He's literally just a kid. He's 23, I think.
23, yeah. He might be 24 now. Who knows?
Yeah.
He's been organizing with neo-Nazi groups since he was like 16. Between the base and the Patriot Front and then starting NSC. And he's basically hopped on to social media trying to use that to like network and recruit other racist trash to his side. And these are some of the clowns that have been going all over fucking New England doing the flyering and, threatening activists and all kinds of shit. And a lot of people have been made aware of that recently because, we're seeing the media finally start to cover these flyer drops, but that's the tip of the iceberg. There's a Somalian community of refugees that lives in the same area as Hood and Cullinan, and they regularly go over there and try to raise hell about, oh my God, there's black people living in our area. They've assaulted the complex where all of these refugees live multiple times. Like, their behavior is unacceptable. This isn't free speech anymore when they're assaulting entire communities for just existing.
Yeah, and kind of moving off that too. I mean, hearing what HSL started, I would love to be able to have access to the resources where I could like actually do a deep dive on this. You guys can hear me, right? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure because like the screen wasn't switching over to mine, at least on my end. And so I would love to have the resources to be able to do a deep dive on this guy and see, okay, how much of what's going on with him, how much of that is a parental influence versus how much of that is shit that he consumed from the computer or the internet, And if it is from the internet, which I'm assuming it is, quite frankly, you know, where did that start? Did it start off going like, you know, full, you know, I don't know, like all in right away with Daily Stormer, things of that nature? Or did it start off with something softer, like, you know, okay, I love this view, Rob. Absolutely love this view. Or did it start off with something quote unquote softer, like Carl's crap, what's almost not Carl Levickad, Sargon of Akkad, aka Carl Benjamin, Jordan Peterson, or like some of the predecessors like Stefan Molyneux, Milo Yiannopoulos, et cetera, et cetera. I would love to know where this started, because I have a feeling that at the end of the day, it all starts off with the mainstream media source, such as like Fox News or something like that. And then it just goes crazy once you are able to fall down the internet rabbit hole, which frankly is
Rush
very
Limbaugh.
easy. What was that?
I said Rush Limbaugh.
God, yeah. I forgot about that dude. He's dead, right? I think he died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank God. Or, I'm sorry. I would
small
never,
miracles.
I would never celebrate someone's death.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder too, because just given, even with the monitoring I do of certain incel groups and their forums and stuff, because they are one of the biggest growing violent threats to society right now. There's a lot of overlap, Venn diagram style, between these incels and the white supremacist groups, and a lot of them are being radicalized by those same people that you just listed. And it's like,
well,
these
white supremacists tend to be the least supreme whites, so
yeah, they do. They really do. And you know, they're reaching these kids at the points of their fucking insecurities, and painting this picture of white victimhood, of male victimhood, and all this other shit of like, oh, you're losing your pedestal, now you're oppressed, you gotta fight back. And so these fucks are going out and, you know, crying because their state is only 98% white. I'm sorry, what? They literally live in the fucking whitest state in the country. And they're trying to push that into the rest of New England and trying to be a threat against other areas that do have more diversity, like Boston and Providence and stuff, that even those are still mostly white.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But they literally want to build a white with no state. It's really fucking sickening. And there's a lot of overlap with the whole inceldom shit, because sorry, not sorry, it's kind of hard to find Nazi chicks. So, you know, they're they're at that point of being willing to kidnap and rape women and like force them onto compounds to breed them. Like, these are some sick fucks. We need to stop these fuckers that are radicalizing them in that direction if we're actually going to make a fucking difference in how these people are steering these kids by playing with their fucking emotions about their goddamn insecurities.
Yeah, and kind of on that point too, the other issue as well is, and I ran into this a few months ago, one of my former friends, because pretty much like once he said this, I was like, I'm done talking with you, like we're no longer cool with each other. But he referred to his ex-girlfriend as a quote, used high mileage beat up Honda Civic because she had been with more than one person. But guess what the real cause of that was, is because of that she didn't want to sleep with him. And so it's like those small comments right there, because incels, I think, know that if they kind of go off, like they're going to really be found as repulsive by people around them. And so what they do is like all these like little dog whistles and all that looking back, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, he had like a lot more than, or a greater number. It wasn't, basically what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't the first time that he'd ever said something like this, right? First time I noticed it. But it's a very common thing that we just don't always catch, because it's like, oh shit, yeah, like there's no way that someone actually means what they just said. It was just like a slip of the tongue, something of that sort. And I wish I could remember for sure, but I remember after Donald Trump won, I went back and I watched a lot of Sargon of Akkad's older content, right? And if I remember, I can't remember of how much he went into it, but I remember after the fact, a lot of his critiques, or well, I'm just going to use the term mockery because that's what it was. It was, oh hey, we're all pictures. I'm in an art gallery. I feel like I'm in Hogwarts right now, except like a not transphobic version of that.
Right.
And God damn it. But basically, he like the way that he would handle making fun of Anita Sarkeesian, as opposed to how he would make fun of Cenk, or I don't think I'm saying that word correct or his last name correctly, or any of like the male any of the male commentators who were commenting on the election and how Hillary blew it, right? And how basically like implicitly sexist a lot of his critiques were. And then moving on from him, moving on to like Jordan Peterson, which was like really when the veil really started to be ripped off for me, right? Because here you have Jordan Peterson being like, oh, free speech, free speech, free speech. I can be, thrown into jail for something that I said. And the fact that it's just being bastardized as this almost, I don't know, universal shield, kind of like religious liberty is, right? Yeah, free speech is being like constantly raised what people should be able to say this heinous stuff. I mean, bullshit, if I'm being honest with you. Sorry, I can remember that I'm out of class right now, so I can actually cuss. And you have that mirrored by religious liberty. And it's like, they're two sides of the exact same coin, just like of what was mentioned earlier about incels and white supremacists being bred by the exact same people, because ultimately they are the exact fucking same. Look at Nick Fuentes, for example. He's like I forget what the proper term is, but he's basically a Catholic theocrat, right? And it's just fascinating seeing of how just everything fucking same on the right.
Orban said free speech is an illusion when the media is being controlled and selective narratives are being pushed.
I wouldn't say that free speech itself is an illusion. I do see the point, but I think that I don't think I'd be willing to go quite that far, personally. Almost, but not quite.
Almost.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Trisha. What were you gonna say?
A big part of what's driving them, why they're not just attacking communities of color, why they're also attacking the LGBTQ community, is they see, people having the option to openly be gay and, whatnot as another threat to their ability to breed. And this feeds into their delusion of white genocide, of like, oh, nobody will fuck me and incubate my sperm. So that's genocide, because they don't fucking understand what genocide actually means. That's why they've been going around attacking gay bars and things like that, because they see that as another threat to their existence, of like, that's less options for me to get my dick in. It's fucking ridiculous and disgusting. And I really wish they would wake the fuck up to the fact that their dicks are unchosen because their personalities are shit.
And that's a really good point too, because it's always like, oh, hey, no, it's like, I'm a dude, you should fuck me. I'm like, no, dude, I'd much rather not. Like, you're a fucking asshole. And it's just amazing to me of how good some of these, especially like I'm going to use the term older incel, basically just simply mean like people who've been incels for longer, right? Of how well they get, or how good they get at hiding their hiding the fact that they're incels. The longest it's ever taken for me to realize that someone was an incel was like a year and a half of them being in my life. Admittedly, I wasn't seeing this person every single day, but they did manage to pry their way into my inner circle, and it ended fairly badly, if I'm being honest with you. But the fact that they're kind of like learning what not to say, but they're still saying in their private circles, kind of says everything you need to know, right? Because they know what they want to do is wrong, at least in society's eyes. So they have to keep quiet about it, except with each other. I hope that made at least a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
It's just super frustrating, because it's like they want to blame all these other things. You can see this in the way that they do their sexual market value things of, I'm a high value man because I have a car and I make this much money and blah, blah, blah. Therefore, I am owed a woman to breed with. No, the fuck you're not. Your personality is shit. You are the problem. Why nobody wants you. Women don't give a flying.
As Greta Thunberg said, small dick energy.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There's an artist called Banshee, and she has a song where basically she's like talking basically it starts off with one of her with one of her classic I don't rants isn't the right term, but her classic voice signature, right? And then all of a sudden it goes into this talk about this guy who's like, I have a good job, I have a nice car, a BMW, et cetera, et cetera. And it's so funny, whenever guys like, you should sleep with me, or I'm wealthy because I have a car. I'm like, bitch, I have 3. Ignore the fact that 2 of them are over 20 years old, but it's still though, it's having a car means jack shit to me. What I care more about is, okay, do you fucking see me as a person? And then we can get into the discussion of whether or not you see me as a woman, right? Because that's very much a 2-step thing, at least for me personally. But for cis women, obviously, do you really see me as a fucking person? Which the answer increasingly seems to be no, as is evidenced by the Dobbs case last year.
So
that's
James...
why women as femoids, because they want to basically give the impression that you are less of a human being for lack of penis.
Yeah.
So James said because racist, sexist, bigoted, white guy doesn't sound like anything, or doesn't like anything that doesn't match him. I'm sorry I butchered your comment, James. And then he said, don't forget big giant boats and dildo space rockets. So I want to show you this video, if you will, of rocket launch.
Colonel, you better take a look at this radar. What is it, son? I don't know, sir, but it looks like a giant dick.
Yeah.
Take a look out of starboard.
Oh my God, it looks like a huge...
Pecker!
Oh, where?
Wait, that's not a woodpecker. It looks like someone's...
Privates! We have reports of an unidentified flying object. It is a long, smooth shaft, complete with 2 balls.
What is that? That looks just like an enormous...
Wang, pay attention.
I was distracted by that enormous flying...
Willie.
Yeah.
What's that? Well, it looks like a giant...
Wiener? Any of you kids want another wiener?
Dad, what's that?
I don't know, son, but it's got great big nuts. Hot, salty nuts.
You get it. I can stop.
That's fucking amazing.
But seriously, you all saw Jeff Bezos's Dr. Evil rocket, right?
Yeah.
And then Bill Shatner fucking rode in it.
Oh man, and seems kind of disappointed in the experience too. I can't remember exactly what it was that he had said afterwards, but basically, well, when you go to space, there's nothing there.
Well, I mean, he said it in a more profound way, I feel like, than that, but yeah, essentially,
and
it's just cold and death.
Right. Many pauses. But yeah, they're definitely trying to overcompensate for something with their dick rockets. Just saying.
I mean, seriously, it's just like Dr. Evil. It just needs 2 balls.
Fucking ridiculous.
Anyway, I think the main thing that we have is Russia and Ukraine, which, to be honest, I haven't even been following anymore.
So basically, what you're doing is you're starting this discussion now, so I can be wrong again. Now, I will say, I can at least I can admit when I'm wrong. Unlike most incels, whenever they think that they made a girl orgasm. Oops. Trisha apparently was a Hakai as a result of my terrible joke.
Oh no, I'm still here. You couldn't hear me giggling?
No, actually I couldn't. I was like, shit, that one went over like a lead balloon.
Or like a fart in a hurricane. Petra said,
not like it was Ukraine, but you know, they did. What, like 2 or 3 days after we had that conversation?
Yeah. So I remember basically, and I think I can't remember if I said this during that show or not, but what I really thought would happen is that basically like Putin would probably go into the Donbass and like that would be it. But I just completely misjudged like where he's at psychologically right now, or where he was at the time, because I'm like, there's no way that he's actually gone this full ideologue, where he's gone completely he's become a total ideologue and is actually going to invade the entirety of the country. Apparently, he is no longer KGB Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And it's just such a huge shit show. I'm getting so sick of every time I turn around seeing Zelensky come fucking beg for more allowance. Like, please get the fuck off our tit. And it also makes me want to scream at our fucking politicians too. Like, what are you doing? You are literally funding Nazis, you motherfuckers. But they knew about that when they funded the Maidan coup in the fucking first place. Did I lose y'all? My shit keeps popping off and then saying connecting.
No, you're there.
Okay. Oh. I'm curious what the tally is up to now at this point of how many fucking billions we have thrown at Zelensky. As well as the tally on how many billions worth of fucking, guns, tanks, what the fuck ever we've supplied them with too.
I just realized my mic was on mute. Sorry about that. But so basically, like the one thing that really bugs me about Zelensky though is of how he's dressed as if how he dresses himself as if he's on the front line of the fucking war when he's in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I understand like why he does it, because if I were his PR person, I would probably tell him to do the exact same thing, right? Because it makes it look like, oh, hey, like my country's still at war. But it's kind of like, dude, like, let's be honest. If the
you're on the floor of fucking Congress, like, chill.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's like you're literally on the other side of the planet away from the war. And it's like, it's at this point that at best the war is going to end up being a stalemate, right? Because the way that things are going inside of Russia right now are not good. I mean, the fact that we actually have people.
Are we looking for the next Russian Revolution? Is that what you're saying?
Basically, I think it's gonna, instead of going more left like the first, like the Red Revolution did, I would honestly be expecting it to basically become like a militarist revolution. Because we're kind of seeing the guy who's the leader of Wagner Group, right? We're seeing him start to really gain more power inside of Russia, and of how people aren't so much afraid of Putin at this point. So what I kind of anticipate happening, and so basically, since I'm seeing that I'm anticipating this, expect the exact opposite to happen, right? What we're going to see is we're going to see Putin fall probably in the next 2-3 years, especially if the terms against Russia are obscene, right? Like we're talking like Weimar, or no, I'm sorry, not Weimar, Treaty of Versailles levels of harsh, but also stopping short of basically demanding that the leader step down. Which, frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if the West wants Putin to turn himself into the Hague. That's never going to happen. Don't kid yourself. But I can see the right wing in Russia taking even more power than they already have right now, because basically they can say, oh, well, look, you see, the entire world is conspiring against Russia. And that's the only reason that we lost the war. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see a repeat of what happened in Germany in the 1920s and early 1930s in the lead up to the Third Reich. Or what in the lead up to the Nazi Party taking over, because it's going to look primed for that to happen right now. The ultranationalists are speaking out in favor of Russian security and all that. Yes, there are anti-Z people or whatever who are against the war, but there's a big difference between being against the war and being being anti-Russia. So what I just don't see this ending very well in a leftist sense. I just see this being essentially a beer hall putsch 2.0, except this time it would actually succeed. I just don't see any real path to the democratic forces in Russia, the liberals in Russia, or the communists in Russia from being able to take any real power in the country at this point.
No, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the Communist Party is the second biggest party, but like just based on representation alone, they have no real power. And I mean, through electoral processes, they probably never will.
Especially since in Russia, like the electoral processes are bullshit, right? Like we have no idea what the real representation of politics in Russia are, if I'm being honest with you. We don't know how many people actually support Putin. We don't know how many people actually are opposed to Putin. And the reason I say that is because we know that the CIA is probably actively right now trying to figure out ways to take Putin's power down, right? While Putin, on the other hand, is doing the classic dictator move of making sure that he always wins 97% of the vote. So, I mean, obviously, like not literally 97%, but still a very high, unrealistic number. So we just have to kind of go off of what people are willing to openly say. And I think we forget just how almost like basically rural Russians act a lot like Soviet Russians did. So you ask people in the rural areas, what do you think of Putin? And they're going to be very suspicious of you, especially if you're a journalist, right? And if you're a Western journalist, they're not even going to talk to you. And they're just going to be like, the government is doing what is right, or the government is doing whatever, because they're afraid of like allowing their real opinions to be out there. Whether they actually are more pro-government or not, they feel the need to repress their own opinions. And on that same note, there's a YouTube channel called 1420, so 1420. And they've done some videos asking rural Russians about, what do you think about the war? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Can you name a Western city you like? Can you name a Western city you don't like? Things of that sort. And in the video where they're asking rural Russians, there were some mistranslations in there, but it was close enough. Basically, most all of them were either in support of the war, believe that Russia, I say we, I'm not in Russia. I'm not a Russian citizen. I accidentally said we had slipped. Hear that, FBI? I'm not a fucking risky. But basically the rural Russians were even willing to say we're against the war. And so I hear that, oh hey, we're against the war, and I'm just going to be like, and when I heard that, I was like, holy shit, like Putin's fucked, right? Because if the rural Russians are willing to speak out against the war, I don't see any path to him staying in power, especially if the war doesn't turn around in a very drastic way, to the point where at the very least, they retain Crimea and the Donbass while also gaining territory and basically forming a land bridge from Donbass down to Crimea. Without that happening, I think Putin falls from power within 6 months after the war ends. I hope that made at least a modicum of sense.
I'm also surprised that they didn't just stop at, going into the Donbass area and locking that down to protect those people who have been getting fucking mass slaughtered for the last fucking 9 years. If anything, the people in those areas who definitely wanted their independence from Ukraine should have simply been supported in that and protected so they could actually do so. With Crimea, they voted to rejoin Russia. With the other areas in the Donbass, they wanted independence. They didn't want to be fucking governed by this fucking Nazi coup that happened in Ukraine. They have every fucking right to not want to. But at this point, because of the push further in, that's not getting support from other parts of the world that really should be throwing down some support of like, okay, let's at least squash the fucking Nazi influence here. It's made for a shit show. Where's the fucking end in sight?
Did you ask him, is there an end in sight, or what did you say with that?
I said, where is the end in sight?
There is no end in sight, if I'm being honest with you. And I think the other thing, aside from me believing that Putin was not an ideologue, that my argument that, Russia isn't going to invade the entirety of Ukraine, is the fact that if Russia did go in its entirety, or into Ukraine's entirety, it would end up being their second Afghanistan. Admittedly, I did not think that Russia's military would be as bad as it is, or would perform as poorly as it has. But at the end of the day, even before the West was pumping all this military equipment into Ukraine, we still saw the Ukrainians put up a very valiant fight, to their credit. Preventing the takeover from the airport in Kiev, to all these other acts of essentially heroism. Some of them real, like at the airport, some of them fake, like the ghost of Kiev, which frankly, if there is one thing that I'm going to say that has cost Russia this war so far, it is that story spreading about that imaginary fighter ace shooting down Russian planes. That pilot did not exist, but we can never discount the importance of a morale boost, right? And the fact that imaginary fighter was like, oh, hey, we have a fighter who was the first ace since World War II, or first ace since Korea, one of the two. Either way, the first ace in a long fucking time on our side, we need to keep fighting for that guy. And that fucked Russia over, but at the same time, though, too, Putin has intentionally kept morale in the military low. He has done all of these things that, quite frankly, fucked him over in the war. Can Russia still win? If Zelensky really fucks up and pisses off the West? Yes. Otherwise, I just think that this is going to be another war that's going to last for 20-something years. Well, it's not going to last for 20 years because Russia doesn't have the resources for it, but it will be a very long-lasting war. That does concern me because of the fact that we've already had one missile accident going to Poland. It was a Ukrainian missile, yes, but there's always a chance of that of another missile not stopping, or another Russian missile actually going in across the border, which of course would trigger Article 5, or I think it's Article 4, Article 6. That's like the, like the meaning where it's like, oh, hey, we need to be on enhanced guard or whatever. Basically, the chances of NATO not coming in, not joining up in this war are very slim at this point, especially if it continues on. I don't think Putin is so stupid as to attack a NATO country, but Russian missiles are so large because they are so inaccurate. And with how close to the border some of these have been fired, it would not surprise me if one does go into Poland.
All it's going to take is collateral damage from an actual Russian rocket, and NATO will fucking step in. We'll be looking at fucking World War III.
Yeah, and because right now we're kind of dealing with a Korean War type deal, right? Except with the exception of the UN forces actually being on the ground. We're just pumping Ukraine full of weapons and support. which the technological mismatch between the West and Russia is absolutely drastic. And now, one thing though that I will say, and I guess this is almost a good, me saying that it's a good thing that Russia has underperformed in this war, is the fact that it does appear as if the Chinese authorities were planning on invading Taiwan if the invasion in Ukraine went well. So, if the invasion in Ukraine had gone well, then Taiwan would have been invaded, and then we were definitely looking at World War III. Rob, you're still on mute.
So it popped up and told me that right as you said something.
You're welcome. I'm like that cool.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm not convinced that we're not still looking at World War III, and I mean, I hope not. For the sake of everyone.
Odds are it's probably going to happen as I eat my Taco Bell cinnamon twist. But yeah, the one thing I do want to point out though too, and this is actually really important. This is why I mentioned in chat earlier about doing another dive into Ukraine, is because the Germans have stated that they're willing to allow their allies to send in Leopard tanks into Ukraine or to Ukraine if other Western allies send in their own tanks, right? Because the Leopard tank is one of the best tanks. It was one of the best main battle tanks in the world. That will, if that does happen, you want to talk about an escalation? Holy shit. I mean, that would basically be the equivalent to the US allowing allies to send F-35s over to Ukraine, right? Except like, instead of a tank that can be easily trained, you're talking about, anyways, neither here nor there. We're talking about one of the most advanced pieces of weaponry that the German military has made, being allowed to be sent into a non-NATO country. Massive fucking step. There's no way that Russia doesn't respond to that. How will they respond? Who fucking knows? The question at that point is, what cards do they still have to play? Obviously, there's the nuclear card. I don't think they would play that card just because Germany sends some tanks over. I mean, maybe they could cut off other gas supplies. I doubt that would happen, though, because they need the gas sales. Although they've basically already cut it off to the countries who cap prices like $60 or $70 a barrel. Regardless, though, probably the most likely way that I see for Putin to play the nuclear card is if Ukraine does advance on Russian soil. Because Putin has always said, we're only going to use nuclear weapons if we see Russian territorial integrity being challenged. Then there's the issue of, how is Putin going to define Russian territory? Will he define it as Crimea? Will he define it as Donbass, specifically DPR and LPR? Or will he define it as pre-2014 Russian borders? It's a very difficult situation to assess, because frankly, I don't know enough. And I don't think any of us can really know what Putin is actually thinking right now.
Right.
And then after all that bad news, I do want to put one bit of good news out there. If we would see nuclear munition be used, it would likely not be an ICBM or submarine launch. What it most likely be is, it would probably be a Sukhoi 34 flank or Sukhoi 34 fullback. So like basically Russia's equivalent to, I guess, our F-15 EX, right? Of basically a fighter bomber with an emphasis on being a bomber. A small bomber, but still a fast fighter bomber. It would probably be that, because you would only have to have a smaller crew, and at the end of the day, you'd only have to have 2 loyal pilots willing to drop that munition. So what are the odds of there being like a nuclear holocaust or nuclear apocalypse? I would say fairly slim. If Russia does launch a nuke, obviously that country no longer exists anymore. But even then, I think the response would probably be a limited nuclear strike. The issue then, though, is where does that limited nuclear response end? Or where do the responses end? So, yeah. Any use of nuclear weapons would not be a good thing. And sorry for rambling.
Right.
Probably should have made myself some coffee before hopping on here, but I didn't want to risk being 11 months late again.
And my apologies, guys. I will be right back. My dogs are in my face again and demanding to go outside, I'm pretty sure. Oh, yep, they're jumping excited. That was the magic word. I will go back.
I mean, I don't really think that we have anything else left to discuss. I guess actually there is one thing. So I've talked about like housing work in New England, and the organization that I'm trying to help form published an announcement of their formation, and I had planned to read that today and encourage any of you that may be in New England to, you know, join or support this group, which has been somewhat humorously named RICH, which is short for Rhode Island Community Housing. That being said, we're starting in Rhode Island, but it's probably going to be a broader New England thing at the end of the day. We've got some Connecticut and Massachusetts people involved. You know, it's only natural that at least those 3 states would be expanded to. Anyway, we are announcing the formation of a mass-based housing-focused coalition dedicated to helping unhoused members of our community off the streets and into housing and getting them the support they so desperately need to survive. It is no longer enough to beg the state to take action. It is clear to us that Governor McKee is unwilling to assist those most in need, and so we must take our own actions to protect our community. We are forming this coalition to take the necessary steps towards helping the homeless in Rhode Island. We aim to explore the following options. And this is by no means a comprehensive list. There's already been other things that we've been discussing, but these are the starting points. Distribution events, so things like toiletries, things like blankets, things like clothing, food. For the love of God, definitely food. Building pallet shelters and other forms of temporary shelter, putting together eviction defense projects, providing support systems for unhoused people, which will include but are not limited to substance abuse support, transportation, job training, job placement, and food production. Not to mention, you know, housing. We cannot allow the state to continue to sweep the housing crisis under the rug. It is the responsibility of every Rhode Islander to make this issue central. To quote the civil rights leader, Grace Lee Boggs, "We are the leaders we've been looking for. Human beings deserve shelter fit for human beings." Join us by contacting Rhode Island Community Housing at gmail.com. That's it.
Good project to get going. And yeah, I know I don't have anything else to add, so.
Too bad we couldn't have got Trisha's last thoughts before she went.
F in the chat. I mean, welcome back. All right, time to end the show.
Okay, Sarah. Get off me. Good Lord. It sounds like I got back just in time to say goodnight to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you let everyone know that the late show is postponed, that we're not doing that tomorrow night?
Oh, right.
I have to work tomorrow, so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The late show will not be taking place tomorrow night. It will be back the following Friday. Tentatively.
Beautiful.
I don't think anything is ever set in stone that far apart here. But, and then of course, you know, there's the, what was that?
I said we try, but try
Right.
and do our two.
Yeah, for sure. So of course, you know, our usual end of the night, like plugging stuff. I encourage you all to subscribe to our Patreon if you can afford, a few dollars a month. Any size donation that you feel comfortable with helps us grow this thing. There we go. And then, of course, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. And we have our website, which is forwearemany.org. The best place to keep up with us, other than Facebook, would probably be the website. We don't really use Instagram and TikTok that much, or Twitter, since Elon Musk took it over. But I mean, if anybody watching wants to volunteer to run a TikTok or Instagram for us, I would never say no to that.
Right, me neither. We're fucking old. We don't really know how to use that shit.
I know how. I'm only 25. I'm only 25. I got it. Actually, I need to check to see how many Instagrams I have on this phone. If I have under 5, I can probably do it myself. Yes, there's a limit to 5 Instagram accounts you can have per phone, and I'm not totally sure that I have enough that I have space on mine. Okay, I have room for one more, so there we go.
Wow.
Hell yeah. I'm over here, I'm 41. I don't know how to tick the talk. Okay.
Oh man, are conservatives still trying to cancel TikTok while simultaneously whining about cancel culture?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's basically the thing with TikTok. And go ahead and actually, you may as well see the full screen up there. This is one thing I do want to talk about a little bit though. Basically, the way that TikTok is coded, it actually does demand a lot of data that's actually on your phone that you probably don't even realize I was asking for. So like, for example, this phone, I don't have TikTok on it. My old iPhone that has been wiped and doesn't have any like real personal files on it, that's the one I use TikTok on, because basically it's a very invasive platform, and we don't really know like where that data is going. Is it going to the Chinese government? Quite possibly. But either way, it is kind of conspiratorial, but at the same time though too, like the way that it's coded is in a way that is quite invasive, and that you do have to be careful whenever you do use the platform, which obviously most people don't give a fuck, but you should give a fuck.
Well, yeah, I mean, the same can be said about Facebook at that point.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations like all social media is bad, except TikTok is exceptionally bad. Because like I can't remember, it's been a while since like I've really read up on this. Basically, like there's national security concerns and all that other shit. Yeah, and there's like the idea that it's like it's pushing the way the algorithms are, but yeah, I'm a little bit too tired around to actually do some deep digging into it. Plus, there's not enough time. If I was prepared for it, I would go deeper into it. But yeah, I actually trust Facebook more than I would trust TikTok, which is actually quite remarkable given how little I trust Facebook.
Right. Like hell, even the way that Facebook sold fuck tons of people's data in the last couple of elections and shit, it's like, come on, what was it, Cambridge Analytica bought the fuck out of people's data in order to make a bunch of fake accounts, fucking troll people into voting how the fuck they wanted them to, and stupid shit. And it's like, this is ridiculous at this point, that's how low they're stooping, because they need to manipulate people.
Yeah. I mean, it's really not surprising, though, if we're being honest.
No.
It's just disgusting.
I agree.
Okay. So basically, I just saw a sentence that phrases it really well. So basically, if U.S. intelligence wanted access to the Chinese platform WeChat, they would have to fight very hard for that access, and it would constantly be at risk of discovery and neutralization. But China actually has statutory authority to have right to all of the personal data that is on TikTok. So pretty much the way to assume it is that anything that anything that you say or post on TikTok can easily be grabbed by Chinese data collection.
I mean, then maybe we'll send them some new commie memes. And set them back on the path of this guy.
Stalin or Mao?
I was trying to point at Mao, but I give up.
Okay, go over a little bit further to to your left. There you go. Just minus the 50+ million deaths.
Wow.
You know.
Oh, my neck hurts and my head hurts. This is the most I've talked since 2 weeks ago on the last show I was on, and so my jaw is screaming at me right now. I can't wait to grab an ice pack.
Felt that. All right, well, we should probably let you go then. I don't have anything else to add. Do you, Rob?
Nope.
Hell yeah. All right, well, I guess this is good night, everyone.
Good night, and we'll see y'all next.
Yep, and we'll see if I'm actually there or not.
I'm going to bug you so that you are.
It's gonna be like you will be on there, and then it's like all of a sudden, like you just see me like in a very dimly lit room, like in a very like a steel chair, just like nervously like smiling and like talking to the camera. As you're like, are you being coerced to be here? No, I'm here of my own free will in this unknown location in a KGB black site.
Like, someone please help me.
It's like I'll be blinking torture. Morse code.
I do not know Morse code that well enough.
Right, me neither.
That well or well enough would have worked, but whatever.
Welcome to the Department of Redundancy Department.
Yeah.
We visited.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, the only thing that I can say is, yeah, I mean, today's been a pretty good day. I'm definitely here on my own free will right now, and yeah, I have nothing bad to say about the people who I am currently here with.
Thank you. We take it to heart.
Because I definitely am not blinking torture in Morse code right now.
Oh God, I wouldn't know how to even fucking tell anyways. It's one of those skills I never learned.
God, like it's amazing that they like that actually worked though,
Right.
But yeah.
Kind of like ham radio. It's one of those lost skill sets we need to bring back.
Yeah, it's kind of
ironically enough, my dad is got his amateur radio license.
Yeah, I need to get that because like if I move back to the Midwest, I definitely will because it's actually a very popular tool among storm chasers.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Phones with built-in ham radio.
Oh my God. Anyway, I'm gonna start the music. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. We should probably shut up because we're very much pulling a Midwestern.
A Midwestern goodbye.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it goodbye and shit. Like
it's not over until
right.
Somebody's like, shit.
Oh, right. We get going.
Oh, time to go.
Don't make fun of me like that. God damn it. Rude.
Oh goodness. All right. Good night, everyone.
You guys remember when we introduced Scott to Ope?
That was beautiful.
Yes. That was so beautiful. Just like, what does this mean? Hold that thought. I have a video for that.
Oh shit! That's what my dogs are going crazy about. There is a cat in the driveway.
Ah.
Yeah. That I am saving this video because that is adorable. Oh, and it's right by the front door now too, so that's why.
It's like, new friend, playmate, hi.
Not with them. More like dinner.
Oh,
Yeah.
naughty dog.
They're good. They're good puppers, but Arwen especially has a bit of a prey drive. And Raid, I can never tell if Raid wants to eat it or if he just wants to play. All right, but
Meanwhile,
see you guys.
You can't have the kitty for a snack.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Later.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents. Just don't worry about it. Learn how to use what